Once upon a time, in a small countryside village called Willowbrook, there lived a humble farmer named Edgar. He owned a modest little house and a small patch of farmland that barely kept him fed. Edgar had a buffalo named Bountiful, a peculiar name, but one that carried a story. Before Bountiful came into his life, Edgar was desperately poor, but the strong, tireless buffalo ploughed every inch of Edgar's field, day after day, season after season, never once complaining. Because of Bountiful's hard work, Edgar began growing wheat, corn, and barley in abundance. The neighbours admired him deeply. Out of gratitude for the plentiful harvest his buffalo brought him, Edgar named the animal Bountiful, Benny for short. Benny was no ordinary buffalo. He was clever, spirited, and full of personality. Edgar understood that Benny was a free soul. The buffalo loved wandering through open meadows in the mornings and always returned home faithfully by evening. As the years passed, Edgar purchased a second buffalo to share the heavy workload. He loved Benny dearly, but he never wanted to break the spirit of the animal who had saved his life. One afternoon, while ploughing, Benny suddenly stopped mid-field, sat down heavily, and began breathing in shallow, laboured gasps. Edgar rushed to his side immediately, deeply worried. "Oh, Benny," Edgar whispered, stroking his tired friend gently. That night, Edgar couldn't sleep. He stared at the ceiling, knowing what he had to do. The next morning, he led Benny deep into Willowbrook Forest. He unclasped the bell from Benny's collar and held it quietly in his palm. "Benny, you are the finest buffalo I have ever known. I could never repay what you've given me. You don't have to work anymore. You are free. Go explore. Go wander, go live. You'll always have a home with me if you ever want to come back." Benny nuzzled Edgar gently, then turned and walked into the trees. The forest was magnificent. Benny drank from crystal clear streams, grazed on lush green grass, and felt the cool breeze ruffle his thick coat. By evening, he discovered a large, warm cave near a glittering pond. "Perfect," Benny said, settling contentedly. "Though all this wandering might slim me down to the size of a giraffe." Days rolled into weeks. Benny was happy, but unknown to him, someone had been watching. That someone was Felix the fox, a cunning and scheming creature who lurked behind bushes, shadowing Benny's every move. "This buffalo wanders around like he owns the place," Felix muttered. "Either incredibly brave or incredibly foolish. Time to have some fun." One morning, Felix approached Benny with a sly smile. "Hello there, stranger. You must be new around here." "I graze here every single day," Benny replied calmly. "I wouldn't call that new." "Oh, a witty one," Felix smirked. "Well, listen here. I am the king of this forest. Every animal bows to me. And that cave you've been sleeping in, that's mine. So if you want to stay alive, you'd better kneel." Benny looked at the fox steadily. completely unbothered. I appreciate the performance, Felix, but we both know you're no king. I doubt you even know how far this forest stretches. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have grazing to do. Felix seethed with rage, swearing silently to get his revenge. Benny, however, grew thoughtful. He realised the fox had been watching him, which meant the cave probably belonged to someone far more dangerous. That very night, as moonlight spilled across the forest floor, a massive shadow fell across the cave entrance. Benny peeked through a crack in the cave wall and froze. A tiger. His heart hammered. His legs trembled. But then Benny forced himself to breathe. Stay calm. He can see the cave, but he can't see inside. That's my advantage. Think clearly. Benny heard voices outside. Felix had accompanied the tiger, whispering excitedly. Didn't I say whoever lives here is big enough for both of us? Benny seized his moment. In the deepest, most commanding voice he could muster, he bellowed into the cave walls. I told you to bring me 2 tigers, and you show up with only 1. We haven't eaten since yesterday, and now we're supposed to share a single tiger between us. Silence. Then, pure, thundering panic. The tiger bolted into the darkness without a single backward glance. Felix, still tied to the tiger's rope from their earlier agreement, was dragged screaming through every bush, root, and bramble in the forest. Ow! 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 This is not what I signed up for. Benny exhaled slowly, a quiet smile crossing his broad face. Stay calm, he said to himself. No matter how frightening the situation, stay calm. Panic never solved anything. Clarity does. And from that day forward, Benny lived peacefully in Willowbrook Forest, respected, unbothered, and wise. The tiger never returned to that cave. Felix the fox nursed his bruises and his wounded pride, and learned, rather painfully, that scheming against someone smarter always backfires. As for Edgar back in Willowbrook Village, sometimes on quiet evenings, he thought he heard a familiar bell chiming faintly through the trees. He'd smile, set out a bucket of fresh water just in case, and whisper into the breeze, "You know the way home, old friend." And somewhere deep in the forest, a wise old buffalo grazed peacefully under the stars, free, fearless, and forever grateful.